What happens when someone looks at their partner and doesn't see a person to love, but a bank account to cash out? It's a chilling thought, right? But for some, it's a very real and deadly calculation. Well, today we're going to open up that very playbook. Yeah, that quote really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's about that terrifying switch when love just gets tossed aside for greed. And suddenly, till death do us part becomes a promise and a threat. So look, we're not just going to give you 3 random crime stories. No. We're actually deconstructing a shared pattern, a cold, calculated playbook of manipulation, betrayal, and, murder, all for the love of money. All right, so let's meet the players in this deadly game. Who are these women? And who are the men who paid the ultimate price for their ambition?
Okay, first up, we've got Josephine Gray. Her whole thing was using voodoo and fear to run this insane murder for insurance scheme. Then there's Alisa McNabney, a total master con artist. She charmed her way into a marriage, only to end it with poison. And finally, Shirley Withers. She took a life of luxury and, she turned it into a crime scene. You see the pattern? 3 totally different methods, but the motive? Identical. Pure greed.
You know, every con, every single betrayal, it always starts with one thing: gaining trust. So the real question is, how did these women get so good at it? How they wormed their way into a position of total control? Josephine's method was something else. She didn't bother with charm. She went straight for raw, primal fear. She built up this whole persona as a powerful voodoo queen, and it worked. She had this supernatural hold over everyone. We're talking even her own husbands were convinced she could curse them with black magic. They were way too terrified to even think about calling the cops. Now, Alisa McNabney, her game was pure high-level manipulation. Just imagine this for a second. You get caught stealing tens of thousands of dollars from your boss. For pretty much anyone else on the planet, that's a one-way ticket to prison, right? But for Alisa, that was an opportunity. She was so incredibly skilled, she didn't just get out of the charges. She convinced the guy she stole from, this attorney Larry McNabney, to marry her. I mean, she literally turned a felony into a promotion. Shirley's approach was a bit more, let's say, traditional. But trust me, it was just as deadly. She found herself a multimillionaire Peter Shellard who was just completely smitten. He fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. He paid for her boutique, bought her a house, and then he made the fatal mistake. In what I can only call an act of blind faith, he made her the bookkeeper at his car dealership. Just like that, she had the keys to the entire kingdom. So, okay, the stage is set, the trust is there, the access has been granted. And now we get to the horrifying turning point. This is the moment these men stop being providers and become obstacles. Obstacles that, in the eyes of these women, had to be removed. Josephine's system was, it was like a chillingly simple business model. A repeatable 4-step cycle. Step 1, get tired of your husband, find a new lover. Step 2, get that new lover to help you murder the old one. Step 3, collect the life insurance. Step 4, marry your accomplice. And then, rinse and repeat. She did this 3 times. The murder of Larry McNabney. This one is just brutal. It wasn't quick. No, this happened over 12 to 18 hours. Alisa and her lover, Sarah Dutra, they just slowly fed him horse tranquilizer. The horrifying part, he was paralyzed, but he was conscious. He knew exactly what was happening, but he was completely unable to stop it, even as they drove him out to a vineyard to bury him. Yeah, that quote, it just says everything, doesn't it? The sheer psychological terror of those last hours, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. A prisoner in his own body, at the mercy of the 2 people he should have been able to trust more than anyone. For Shirley Withers, the trigger was getting caught. Her boyfriend Peter and his accountant, they figured it out. They realized she'd stolen almost $1 million from him, and he was about to go to the cops. So what does she do? To silence him, to protect that lavish lifestyle she'd built, she and a couple of accomplices staged this elaborate murder. The cover story? A kinky sex game gone horribly wrong. So, you have to be wondering, how did these plans, which seemed so foolproof, completely fall apart? Let's dive into the mistakes, the slip-ups, and the smart police work that finally put an end to these deadly careers. With Josephine Gray, investigators had a huge problem. I mean, they knew she was behind 3 deaths. But all the witnesses were petrified of her voodoo threats, and solid evidence was almost impossible to find. They just couldn't make a murder charge stick.
So the prosecutors had to get creative, and they came up with this brilliant idea. They used a federal law called the Slayer's Rule. And the idea behind it is super simple. You're not allowed to profit from your own crime. So, to get her on insurance fraud, they first had to prove to the jury that she caused the deaths. It was this incredible legal workaround that let them talk about all 3 murders in a single trial. And check this out. A detective actually tried to warn Josephine's 3rd lover, a guy named Clarence. He asked him, "What makes you think that you're so special?" Basically telling him, "You're next." Clarence didn't listen, and he ended up dead. But the police tried the same exact thing on her next boyfriend, Andre. And this time it worked. He cracked and admitted she confessed everything to him. That testimony was absolutely crucial.
For Alisa, what brought her down was her own past. The moment they found her husband's body, investigators dug in and realized Alisa McNabney was just one name out of like 30 different aliases. Her whole life as a con artist had left a breadcrumb trail. And then the final nail in the coffin. Her accomplice, Sarah Dutra, got arrested and confessed everything. And that was it. Game over. Shirley's story is similar. Her accomplices flipped on her almost right away. But the police wanted an airtight case, so they set up this really audacious undercover sting. They had an officer pose as a hitman, and he offered to take care of the accomplices for her. And you know what? Shirley walked right into the trap. And they got her on tape. Her own words, caught on a wire. She told the fake hitman, "I want them dead. Not scared, dead." That was it. Irrefutable proof of just how cold-blooded she really was. So, after all that, all the planning, the lies, the murders, what was the final price of all that greed? Let's take a look at what finally happened to these 3 women. And here it is, the final tally. Josephine Gray, never actually convicted of murder, but she got 40 years for fraud. She'll almost certainly die in prison. Alisa McNabney committed suicide before she could even face trial. And Shirley Withers, her murder charge got knocked down to manslaughter on appeal. She ended up with a 13-year sentence. So when you look at it, in the end, that deadly playbook, it didn't lead to a life of freedom and luxury. It led to a prison cell, a grave, and a whole lot of ruined lives. The very greed that drove them to kill was what guaranteed they would fail. And that kinda leaves us with a final, chilling question, doesn't it? These stories just show a terrifying side of human nature. What people are capable of when money becomes more important than a person's life. It really makes you wonder, are there any limits to what greed can do?